Okay, hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry back again. We also have Law, Luffy, and Kid hanging out back here, so some members of the Supernovas that are represented. I wonder if that's gonna lead in anything. No Zoro, though, which is weird, because I could have sworn I put him back there. Did he get lost again? Aw, man, I tell ya. If you guys can find Zoro, please point him out to me. Please let me know. It's like an episode of Dora the Explorer or Blue's Clues. If you can see Zoro in the background, please click on him so we all know where he's at. I don't know. All right. Also, make sure to stick around for the end of this video because we're going to be doing a very special episode of Elephant Facts. We're going to be doing Mammoth Facts. Oh, yes. It's like Elephant Facts times 10 from prehistoric times. Yeah, right? All right. So this is going to be a fun one, though. I made a video a couple days ago, and somebody commented on that video by the name of Silver Screen. Don't know anything about this person other than the fact their avatar is Hollow Knight, which means they're epic. Hey, Tekking, if the Supernovas were all on one crew together, stop, just, what do the British people say? Full stop. You don't need to go any further than that. It's fine. We're making the video. Although I will read the rest of your comments, Silver Screen, because I am polite. If the Supernovas were all on one crew together, as in just the Supernovas, what position would each one fill? Okay, well, let's just dive right into this. A lot of people really took to this comment, or a lot of people were, like, excited about the topic, so why not? I also, not even so much, like, what each role the Supernovas would play on one crew together, because some are pretty obvious. Like, Luffy's going to stay the captain, obviously. Law's going to be the doctor. Kid would be the shipwright. You know, some are less obvious, and we'll get into that, of what, you know, roles I think they would play. But just beyond the roles, it's like the absurdity of all of the members of the worst generation, or all of the super rookies. We're doing the worst generation. We're including Blackbeard because he sort of got, like, added into it after Marineford, which, I don't know. I mean, you got the 11 super rookies, and then all of a sudden, you know, Blackbeard just gets added to the worst generation. If I was a member of the original, you know, super rookies, like if I was Hawkins or Rouge or Beiji or somebody, I'd be kind of mad about that, right? It's like, what? You know, we were all members of the super rookies, we were the worst generation, and then all of a sudden, just because Blackbeard shows up and steals a devil fruit and becomes one of the only humans to have 2 powers, and he killed a Yonko, and he killed Ace. Well, he didn't really kill Ace, but his involvement kind of, well, he was the one that captured him to begin with. All because of that, he ends up as a member of the worst generation. Man, that's just nuts. So yeah, we're going to include Teach on here too, so all 12 of them, right? But yeah, it's not even like what roles they would play. It's just like, it's absolutely crazy to see all of them on one ship together. So before we even get, I know that, like, the idea is just hypothetically if they were, but I'm me. I have, like, the whole Isekai series on the channel. So I'm just going to try to generate a crazy scenario where all of these characters that would never take orders from one another, like we saw just how much Kid and Law are arguing in the last chapter, and that's when they were up against a Yonko, for God's sake, right? They're facing down Big Mom. They're staring down a Yonko, knowing that the only hope they have of bringing her down is working together, and Law and Kid are still arguing with each other of like, hey, you stole my shot. Hey, you stole my shot. My spotlight, right? So the idea that any of these people could work together, like the idea that Kid or Law or Apu or Beiji would, like, accept Luffy as their captain and just listen to whatever he says is absolutely ridiculous, okay? But I think I have a scenario which may sort of lead to this. And even this scenario, with how crazy it's going to be, they still might not want to work together. But this is the best one I have, all right? So let's say there's a moment in the One Piece story where all the Supernovas are together. Well, aside from Sabaody, that really hasn't happened post-time skip, but I'm just going to use the movie Stampede, because they're all together at Stampede. They all get together at this big pirate festival, which, by the way, if there's an announcement that there's a big pirate festival somewhere in the world, if you're a pirate, you should probably just not go. That seems like a trap by the Marines or some other pirates, right? Whatever. So let's just assume there's a big pirate festival somewhere in the New World, and all of the current Supernovas, just as they are right now, just as powerful as they are in the Wano arc, they all decide to go to the festivities just like they did in Stampede. Okay, so all the Supernovas are together there, right? And remember, in that movie, when Bullet showed up, this ridiculously powerful character, like Broly-esque character of just like, I'm gonna curb stomp all of you, you know, and he just like rushes them and everything like that. There was a moment where the Supernovas, at first they tried to work, separately, and it didn't work. So then they tried to work together, and they still didn't beat Bullet. But that was like some camaraderie there of like, okay, well, we have to work together to bring this guy down. So let's take that to the next level. Let's say all the Supernovas are together at this festival, and then boom, they all get sucked into another dimension, all right? They're separated from their individual crews. So Luffy is separated from the Straw Hats, Law is separated from the Heart Pirates. They're all separated from their individual crews. You just have the 12 members of the worst generation, the 11 Super Rookies and Blackbeard, okay? And they all get sucked out of their dimension into another dimension. And this other dimension they get isekai'd into is basically straight up hell. Like, it is worse. It's like the Grand Line times 100. It's like the Super Grand Line. The Mega Grand Line, right? You thought the Grand Line was scary. You thought the new world was scary with all the crazy weather patterns. Aw, man, this place, like, straight up there's no water. It's just magma that's on fire, and it's electrocuted, and there's giant spiky death obsidian sharks jumping out of the lava electrified fire water, okay? Like, let's just start with that. That's the beginning of it. It's like the new world crossed with the gourmet world in Toriko times 100, right? It's just like the most inhospitable environment possible, right? And there's no rainbow at the end of this. There's no great treasure or anything, right? So let's say they get isekai'd into this dimension, and the only way for them to get out is to get to the end of whatever ocean they're on. They have to get to the end of this ocean, and then they can get sent back to their original world, okay? They could get sent back to the One Piece world, all right? So that is the crazy scenario that I have established here for all of the Supernovas to put aside their differences and just go with it and just be like, screw it. We're just going to have one crew, have a ship, and then we're just going to have to go. Because if we don't make it, then, I mean, if we don't work together, we're not going to make it, all right? Now, even in this scenario, I'm thinking there are probably at least more than a few members of the worst generation that would probably just go with death rather than taking orders from, like, other members of the Super Rookies. So this might not even work, you know? Like, if they were in this kind of scenario, it might not even work. But, you know, it's the best one we got. So they got sent into this horrifying mega New World Grand Line area where they got to face off against, like, giants, but not like the giants from One Piece, like demon devil giants and stuff, right? Like, they literally gotta, you know, combine all of their powers together to even hope to get through this place, okay? And it's just a trial after trial in order to get to the final, the final finish line to escape this world and go back to the One Piece world, all right? So, with that being said, who would be, to get to the question of Silver Screen, who would be what on this crew, all right? So let's start off with Luffy being the captain, you know? And I mean, like, let's be straight up here. Every single member of this crew, no matter what role they play, are very strong fighters, like, right? Like, so Law would obviously be the doctor and the surgeon, but he also is a crazy powerful fighter, okay? So all of them would have to fight on this crew, just like how all the members of the Straw Hats have to fight at individual points. You know, just because Brook is the musician, that doesn't mean he gets off when it comes to fighting, right? It's just like, well, sorry, Brook, you're just the musician, so you don't have to fight if you don't want to, right? It's nothing like that. Chopper's the doctor, he still has to fight. Same situation with this. They're all wicked powerful, we all know this. And it's, you know, honestly, like, Luffy... I feel like Luffy would be so headstrong, the only position that he would accept is captain. But at the same time, Luffy is not... Okay, talking purely just about how, like, historic pirates, you know, or like captains were, like, leading their ships, Luffy is not a good captain. Luffy's actually a really shitty captain, right, in terms of, like, real life. Because, you know, Luffy doesn't really order his crew around or anything beyond just like, hey, guys, there's a crazy island. Let's go there next, right? Hey, Sanji, I think we should have an ice cream party for everybody. Like, that's basically Luffy. Most of the time, he just spends hanging out on the figurehead of the Sunny or the Mary and just enjoying the view. And Nami is honestly the one that deals with most of the day-to-day activities on the ship, like steering the ship and, you know, making sure the weather patterns are okay. Luffy's just kind of there, right? Okay? But at the same time, that might work to their advantage for Luffy to just be ostensibly the captain, but then they can all kind of do their own thing, because that's kind of how the Straw Hats are. Like, they don't have to wait for Luffy's order to, like, change the sails or anything like that. They just kind of get to the groove of, like, doing whatever they're gonna do, and Luffy's just there, right? Now, if they're going to make a really big move, they usually ask Luffy's permission if that's okay, like when the Straw Hats were being attacked by Big Mom and Sanji needed permission from Luffy to fight back, like, stuff like that. But the usual dynamic is, like, Luffy is there as the captain, quote unquote, but the rest of the crew just kind of does whatever they do, right? So I could see the Supernovas just kind of looking at Luffy and being like, okay, whatever, fine, you can be the captain. We're still gonna do whatever we want, but fine, yes, if you want to be the captain, you can be the captain if we're gonna make it out of this, right? So I could kind of see that, even with, like, I can't even really honestly see that with all of them. Like, Kid, for example, I don't think would ever accept that. But it's like, honestly, this would turn into if you want to be honest, it would just turn into a battle royale on who gets to decide to be captain, and people would probably die in that fight. That's how it would go, right? If they had to decide one of them to be the captain, there would just be a fight, and then they would die, and then none of them would get home, okay? That's really honestly how it would go. Or what if they just do a random lot, like a random lottery kind of situation? That I actually might work better, and whoever does get as, like, the position of captain, once again, it would just be there for, like, appearances. It would not be, like, the functional role of them listening to whatever this person says. It would just be like, okay, let's draw straws. Who gets it? Hawkins. Hawkins is the captain. Okay, fine. But, like, no one is going to actually, like, sit there and listen to every order he says. Or they could alternate. I thought of that as well, but, if they're in this, like, life or death situation, alternating captains, like, every day, like, they're all sitting down and they're like, all right, so here's how this is going to work. There's 12 of us, okay? So 7 days of a week, so Sunday from midnight to 8 a.m., Luffy will be the captain, and then from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., then we'll have Zoro be the captain, but then alternating every other Sunday. Like that, they wouldn't be able to do that, all right? So I would say, like, screw it, just make Luffy the captain, but they're not going to listen to him, okay? And of course, we have Zoro still there, because Zoro is a member of the Supernovas, so Luffy and Zoro would have been from the original crew, and Kid and Killer, same deal, okay? So they would at least hang out with each other, and they would know each other, right? I'm just going to get to Zoro and Killer right now, because I think they're both listed. Well, they're both the first mate or the vice captains of their respective crews, but they're also, I think, just listed as fighters or swordsmen in Zoro's case, or combatants. I think that's Killer's position, is just combatant of the Kid Pirates, right? So they would just be straight up fighters. They wouldn't have any specific role to play other than being their, like, second in command of their regular captain, but in this situation where everybody's on the crew together, I mean, I guess if Luffy is the captain, Zoro would be the vice captain. If Kid ended up being the captain, it would be Killer. But at the end of the day, they would be fighters. That would be their main goal, just they would be the ones that would jump and fight against the giant obsidian shark, or the giant, or whatever. There would be the dragons and the griffins, or whatever's attacking them, the sea monsters, the Loch Ness monster. Those would be the ones that would, like, jump up and fight those first, right? Okay. That's Zoro and Killer. Pretty self-explanatory for them. Eustace Kid would be the shipwright, and I've said this before in videos. We have Kid back here. Kid is, like, a genius when it comes to that stuff, just because of the nature of his devil fruit. We also saw him when he was a kid. Oda drew him, and he had, like, a wrench, and he was, like, building, like, little toy robots and stuff. So he definitely is an engineer. He's a mechanic, even before he ate the magnet fruit. But upon eating the magnet fruit, we've seen all the really cool stuff he can make. He can make giant robots and stuff. He can also make complex machines. I guess a railgun is not, like, super complex, but, I couldn't build one. You know what I mean? So he can, like, and the fact that he's not just building one, he's, like, Kid is not just sitting down at a workshop table and taking his sweet time and building a railgun. He literally just grabs random scrap metal from the battlefield around him and throws it together, and boom, makes a railgun in only a matter of seconds, okay? So he's got talent with that kind of stuff. So I would not be surprised in the slightest if, yeah, the Kid Pirates might have other shipwrights to help them, but the main shipwright of the crew is Eustace Kid, their captain. Just like how I'm sure there's other doctors on Law's crew, but Law is the main doctor and surgeon of the Heart Pirates. okay? So Kid is definitely going to be the shipwright, and it's going to be good because if we're going canonically with this and the ocean really is made of lava, he's going to have to figure out some way to make, like, you know, an icebreaker ship, but a lava breaker ship. And I think Kid could do it. Kid could take some metal, and he's like, it'd be actually really funny if, like, Luffy and the rest of the Supernovas don't really know how to sail across lava. Like, how are we going to sail across lava? And they're all coming up, like, Luffy comes up with some stupid idea. Maybe we could coat our ship with ice, you know? And Kid is the one that actually steps up, and he's just like, you idiot, that would never work. In order to get through something like this, we're going to need tungsten, which is like the metal that has the highest heat resistance ever out of every metal. So we need to get our hands on some tungsten, and then we can build a ship that can actually sail. All right, and everyone's looking at Kid like, holy shit, he knows chemistry? It's just like, of course I do, I'm a mechanic. Now, I'm not, of course, so I don't even know if is tungsten magnetic? I don't think it is, you know, and would you even be able to build a ship's hull out of tungsten? Would it be too heavy? Would it be optimal? You'd have to make, I think tungsten is just like a rock or an ore or something. You'd have to combine it with something else to make like an alloy out of it. I don't know how this would work, but it's One Piece. Like, Kid would be the one to figure it out, though, okay? Because he's like the master of this kind of stuff, like engineering and, you know, building stuff, okay? So that would be Kid. Next we have Law. I've said it many times. Law would be the doctor. He would be the doctor. He'd be the surgeon. Honestly, better than Chopper, I think, just because, you know, Chopper has really good doctor skills, like making medicines and stuff, and Chopper could perform surgeries. It's just that Law has way more experience doing surgeries, and he has the power of the Op fruit, which makes surgeries a million times safer and easier, where if, like, there's something, like, if one of the members of the crew gets shot with a bullet, right? You know, Chopper could remove it, sure, but he would have to do the whole 9 yards. He would have to, like, sterile environment, put on the masks, you know, take out a syringe, not a syringe, a scalpel, probably a syringe. I'm not a doctor, okay? Syringe and scalpels are probably involved in this in some way, and try to, like, remove the bullet that way, like the way that you would if you actually got shot, you go to the doctor, right? It's a serious procedure. But Law would be able to do it in, like, 2 seconds. He would just be able to be like, room, shambles, and literally just pop the bullet, like, out of your body, or, like, replace it with something else. Like, he grabs a pebble off the ground and, like, shambles, and then, well, then that would put the pebble inside of you. But no, he could just pop out part of your flesh and just separate it, and then just pull out the bullet, pop it back together, put it back in your body, you be set, right? So that wouldn't be a problem for Law. So just in terms of being a good doctor and surgeon, Law would be the best possible one here, and probably one of the only reasons that will keep them alive throughout this horrible slog that they would have to go through, right? So next up we have Apu. Once again, this is an easy one. I wonder what rule Scratchman Apu of the On-Air Pirates, the user of the music fruit. Not the music, I think it's just the sound fruit, isn't it? Like the Oto no Mi. I wonder what job he would have. He would be the chef. He would be the baker, guaranteed. No, so he would be the musician, obviously. And his music, I'm not saying anything to Brook. Actually, him and Brook actually have very similar abilities because Brook's soul power is able to give new aspects to his music. So Brook could play music to make people feel like they're drunk or make people fall asleep or whatever. In a similar way, Scratchman Apu's ability of the Oto no Mi allows him to play his fighting music, which, as we saw, sort of like re-energize the numbers and allowed them to get back up after they were defeated, and he could kind of like control them to an extent. So I don't think the control ability would work too well on other people that have strong willpower. Like, just in terms of this crew, we have a lot of members that can use hockey. All the members can use hockey. Luffy and Kid both have Conqueror's hockey. If you want to say Law has it, I wouldn't be surprised. Zoro has Conqueror's hockey. Maybe Killer can awaken Conqueror's hockey. You know, just like a Conqueror's hockey bargain sale here with this group, right? So I don't think Apu would be able to control them, but he would be able to. He was like a bard, basically, in D&D, like bard song or like bardic inspiration or whatever. He'd be like, all right, everybody, it's time to get into an epic fight with this giant dragon. It's just like, yeah, check it out, bam, bam, and then everybody feels like strong and like is like invigorated to fight. Like, let's do this, you know, like let's all fight together, right? Yeah. Maybe it's through him using the fighting music they all kind of overcome their differences and have like an act of solidarity just to focus on the main enemy at the moment, something of that nature, right? So then we have Beiji after this. Honestly, I put this at the same position as Beiji in Law, okay? If Luffy's going to be the captain, he's not going to do anything to be actually the captain. So somebody else has to be the quartermaster who is really the captain of the ship, okay? And so I thought Beiji would work really well for this because Beiji is, he's a mafia don, so he's used to, like, you know, ruling over people even before he was a pirate, like ordering them around, not just on a pirate crew, but as an actual, like, structured organization, right? And that's how he leads the Fire Tank Pirates. They all dress very impeccably. They all have very strict rules to follow. You know, make sure to clean and press your suits every other Tuesday. I don't want any ruffles going around here. You know, I don't want any people wearing dirty clothing and stuff. Beiji's the kind of guy, like, when his crew sits down for dinner every night and one of his crewmates has, like, a mustard stain on his shirt, Beiji's the kind of guy that would take out a gun and shoot him and just be like, that's for not doing your laundry, you know, like something like that. Like, that's how he would do this, right? So he runs a very tight ship, is what I'm saying. And Beiji, as the quartermaster, I think he would keep everything sort of in line, right? Law would also be good at this as well, but Law, I think, would have enough stuff going on just being the doctor. So, I mean, maybe you can alternate back and forth, but I think Beiji would be the one that would actually kind of like, hey, hoist the sails, we're going over there, we're avoiding this. You know, this kind of crap, right? Also, with the power of the Shiro no Mi, he could basically add extra defenses to the ship itself, right, with his fortress powers, okay? Let's just assume he could do that, right? So it's a combination of Kid building the right kind of ship and then Beiji, like, fortifying it with his ability. Maybe he can merge his castle into the boat itself, or maybe the boat could be part of his castle, and then that would allow them to sail to these new locations and stuff like that, right? Okay? So that would be Beiji's job, basically, just making sure everything's in line. He'd be the quartermaster, okay? Then we have Drake, and Drake's role, well, he used to be a Marine, which means he would probably have a pretty good idea when it came to structure and stuff as well. Probably even, well, Beiji and him probably would be similar. Maybe instead of Law and Beiji being the quartermasters, Drake and Beiji would be good at that because, you know, Drake grew up in the Marines. I mean, his dad was a Marine, but he turned traitor, but then he was raised in the Marines ever since a young age. He eventually rose to Rear Admiral, so he commanded a Marine battleship, probably multiple Marine battleships. And, you know, the Marines are very strict, and, you know, you have to go through, like, boot camp and everything like that, so he would probably be better at that kind of stuff. But I also put him down as, like, the detective of the crew. You know, if anybody watches One Piece D&D, we just recruited Jimmy to the crew. Oh, Jimmy. And I'd really like Jimmy, if he doesn't die, to be like the detective sort of the Devil's Luck Pirates, right? Like, he would be the one, like the spy that would, like, infiltrate the enemy ranks and stuff like that. I could see Drake doing that as well because he's really good at that. Like, that's play to their strengths. These are their strengths, right? He can also turn into a dinosaur, which is, that's impressive in terms of combat, right? But if there was ever a situation where they needed to infiltrate something or go somewhere to figure out where they needed to go next, or, you know, to find something or steal something, they're all pirates, but I think Drake, being a Marine and a pirate, like a traitor, not really a traitor, but like a double-crossing traitor kind of person, he's a traitor to pirates, if nothing else. He would be really good and gifted for that, but also just making sure everything stays in line. I think just he's somebody that knows how to do that from a military perspective, and Beiji's someone that knows how to do that from a criminal perspective, as in the mafia. It's like comparing the mafia to the military. There may be some similarities there with how, like, strictly they're run, but they're very different. You know what I mean? So then, after Drake, I put Jory Bonnie. Now, I'm not really sure if Bonnie would be a great cook or a chef or a baker, but she eats a lot. And once again, eating a lot does not mean you're a 5-star chef or anything like that. But out of everybody on this crew, I would say Bonnie would probably be the best cook because she eats a lot of delicious foods, so she would at least know how to cook some delicious food, right? Kind of the same role that, like, Nami had at the beginning of the story before Sanji was recruited. Nami was the chef, and she wasn't bad. She wasn't, like, on Sanji's level or anything, but she knew how to cook food and stuff like that. That would kind of be Bonnie's role, I guess, but she also knows a lot of information about, like, kingdoms and stuff because she's, you know, the Queen Dowager of the Sorbet Kingdom him and everything. So I'm not really sure in my scenario if they get isekai'd into this horrible world that they have to try to escape. I'm not really sure if that would come in handy at all, but it might. Like, she might have some knowledge that might come in handy if they ever have to deal with some kind of noble or something. Like, they encounter the king of this hell realm or whatever. Like, if they have to go up to Lucifer or something. Like, I don't know, Bonnie might know something about that in terms of how they operate and stuff. I don't really know. Also, her devil fruit, which we don't know the name of it, but it's probably like the age fruit or something like that. That would be very useful, because apparently as long as she can come in direct contact with you, the fight's pretty much over. She'll turn you into a baby or like an old man or something, and you won't be able to fight anymore, right? But yeah, that's Bonnie, I guess, the best option as the chef. Then we have Hawkins, who I said in the video he would be the navigator. I thought about that a little bit, and I've decided just to keep him the navigator. Because Hawkins, yeah, with his clairvoyance, with his tarot abilities, they're pretty accurate from what we understand. It's a reading based on percentages, right? So it's kind of like, if we head in that direction, it's, you know, a 75% chance we'll be okay. As opposed to going in that direction when we'll have a 90% chance of being killed or something like that, right? So, especially if they got sent to a world like this that's super dangerous that none of them, like, know anything about. Honestly, like, if it was the Grand Line, relying on fortune telling to guide you might not be the best option, but if it's a different world and, like, the log pose and compasses don't work in this other realm, and they're completely, like, just flabbergasted of how this place functions, you know, Hawkins' divination and tarot reading ability might actually be the only way the only mechanism to properly navigate this world, right? Because if none of the other contemporary instruments, like the sextant's not working, if they can't see the stars, if the compasses don't work, the log poses don't work, they're kind of like up shit creek without a paddle at that point, right? So yeah, it's like Hawkins takes out his cards, it's like, we should head in that direction. Really? It's like, yes. It's like, why? It's like, because it's the only direction where we won't immediately die. It's like, okay, what are the odds that we will die? About 70%. That's the best. Take what you can get. You know, just like, all right, I guess we're going that way, right? So, honestly, if they did get isekai'd, Hawkins' ability would probably be indispensable. Plus, he has other things he can do, too, with his straw men and everything like that. I mean, maybe Hawkins should actually be the captain just because he has extra lives. You know, it's just like, maybe, I don't know. Then we have Arouge. I put Arouge on here. I took a while to think about Arouge's position. Obviously, he would be a fighter as well because he becomes like big buff monk and like beats the crap out of you. But I'm like, there has to be something else Arouge can do. And honestly, I thought Arouge might be a really good mediator. Okay, so if they get sent to this other world and they have to meet other people or like gain allies or whatever, Arouge might actually be the best at like negotiating, being a mediator, an emissary kind of member, because he is a monk, which does imply like a religious background, like to go back to D&D terms, like an acolyte sort of background. And you know, he is a pirate, but the thing is, we don't know that much about Arouge right now. Arouge and Bonnie are like two of the members of the Supernovas that we haven't really expanded upon a lot. We even know more about Bonnie from what we saw at Reverie. Arouge, we don't really know anything. We don't know why Arouge wanted to become a pirate. We don't know, you know, how he went from, you know, the Sky Islands down to the Blue Sea. Why did he decide to move from Bierka down to the Blue Sea to become a pirate? Did it have something to do with Eneru because he destroyed Bierka? Did Arouge leave before or after? Did he know Eneru? Was he in allegiance with Eneru? Did he decide just to leave because he didn't like Eneru's style? There's so many different questions involving Arouge. But from what we've seen, you know, he'll fight. He loves a good dust-up. He loves a good fight. And his ability is basically retribution, which makes him even bulkier and more buff to fight. But he doesn't always immediately chase after the fight the same way that, like, Zoro does, right? Okay? And we even saw that, like, when he was up in the balloon terminal and then Kaido showed up, you know, Arouge did not try to pick a fight with him. Arouge was just kind of like, let's just say a prayer for him as he falls. And that was it, right? So I could see Arouge doing that. Like, if they had to contact a new group of people to try to become allies with him or figure out what's going on, out of all of these members, Luffy, Zoro, Kid, Killer, Law, Pooh, Beiji, Drake, Bonnie, Hawkins, Arouge, and Blackbeard, Arouge would be one of the better options to send and be like, I will explain our situation and hopefully they will understand. Greetings all, I am Mad Monk Arouge. I'm sorry, Mad D Monk Arouge, you know, like something like that. Maybe, possibly. I mean, like, Law would probably be pretty good in that as well, you know, just to, like, meet people. Maybe even Drake and Beiji, possibly. But I would say Arouge would probably be the best at it, right? Okay, because he's, like, a religious person. He's a monk. So that could be something like that, too. And then finally we get to Blackbeard, where I've kind of left Blackbeard out of most of this video up until now. Blackbeard would definitely be one of the members that would, like, he wouldn't obey anybody, right? Like, he would just, like, try to kill everyone or try to absorb them into his darkness or whatever. Like, I don't think he would straight up listen to them, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe, because Blackbeard is kind of erratic as well. Like, he's made some decisions that you think are, like, genius 4D chess moves in One Piece, but then he's made other decisions that are just like, you're an idiot for trying to do that, right? So who knows? Maybe in this situation, maybe Blackbeard would be like, "Zay ha ha ha! All right, I guess in order to get back to our world, I guess I gotta listen to you. I guess we'll work together just for right now. But after we get out of here, we're back to being enemies, Straw Hat and all of you. Zay ha ha ha!" Maybe something like that. Who knows? But Blackbeard, I mean, let's just be honest here. He would be indispensable as well. The dude's got one of the most strongest Logias in the story. Plus, he's got Whitebeard's Gura Gura. Plus, he has skills in archaeology. As Oda revealed, archaeology and history is like his hobby. So he would basically play the role of Nico Robin in this new world. Now, if we're in this new world, I don't know how well that knowledge and stuff would be, you know, involved or whatever. Maybe they have to uncover some kind of secret in order to get home or whatever, like some other dimensional version of the poneglyphs. I don't know. But he would be an archaeologist, I guess. And he also would be a very strong fighter. So that's the case there. Being able to absorb any ability, being able to turn off devil fruit powers, if there are devil fruit powers in this world, or being able to absorb, even if there aren't devil fruit powers, just be able to suck people into the void. You know, that would be very useful. Being able to create earthquakes, that would be very, very useful. If they're sailing the lava sea on their tungsten ship and they come across a giant wall in the middle of the ocean, Blackbeard would be like, "I got this. Say ha 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 ha. Boom!" And then he just punches it apart. That would be useful. That would be very useful. So there, that's Blackbeard's position there on the crew. And so, yeah, I'm thinking as long as, you know, it's really insane to think about this. Like, let's put it this way. Let's take Blackbeard out of the equation for right now, because Silver Screen did just say the Supernovas. But let's take Blackbeard out of the equation right now and just say it's the Supernovas. How do you think this crew would work? If they actually worked together, would they be able to take down the Yonko? So we have all of the Supernovas working together. Maybe not all of the Yonko at once, but like, because if all of the Yonko work together, and then if all of the Super Rookies work together, the Yonko would win. But let's say we had all these Supernovas working together in perfect unison up against Kaido, or up against Big Mom. I think they'd have a pretty damn good chance of winning, don't you? Like, yeah, I mean, we could see the movie where it's like they all get thrashed by Bullet. But that was not canon, okay? Oda did not write that fight scene. The movie staff just had, like, Bullet's this really strong guy, and he's gonna beat the crap out of all the Supernovas working together. That's how much of a badass he is. Whereas right now in Wano, we can see that, like, just 5 members of the Worst Generation working together were able to deal a decent amount of damage to Kaido and Big Mom, right? So you can't go with that scene in the movie, like, just because Bullet beat them all down. That was a movie, right? But if all the Supernovas, all 11 of them, work together to face off against just Kaido, or just Big Mom, or just Blackbeard, I think they'd have a pretty good shot of winning. And then the Admirals, what if they face off against the Admirals? I think, honestly, all 11 of them working together could easily defeat any one of the Admirals. Maybe not easily defeat any one of the Admirals, but, you know, it would be a fight still, but, like, they would be able to win. They would be able to beat just Aokiji or just Kizaru. If they all work together, once again, in perfect unison is the rub there, you know? Not just, like, arguing halfway through. If they actually, like, formulated a strategy and worked together through that strategy, which is not how a lot of them fight, but if they did, it'd be pretty impressive. Well, anyway, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks again to Silver Screen for leaving that comment. And now we get to the epic Mammoth Fox. Woo! Just think of it as more impressive because it's a mammoth. All right, so mammoths from the Pleistocene epoch. Epic? I don't know. Epoch? That's a fun word. About 5 million years ago to about 4,000 years ago, they lived on this planet, not to be confused with mastodons. Mammoths and mastodons are different. They're related, you know, of course, but different species. Woolly mammoths are more like from Asia, and then the mastodons are from America, or where America would later become the Northern American, continent and stuff like that. So keep that in mind there. They are more related to Asian elephants than they are African elephants, so keep that in mind. Very large animals. We see cave art that, because they were still around, of course, they were very plentiful back during the day when humans began to pop up on the planet and hunt and gather and stuff like that. I think modernly anatomic correct humans started popping up around 100,000 years ago, roughly. And so if we take that into, and there were still like other, human ancestors that lived before that, but just like the current form that we're in right now in all of our fabulousness and everything like that, JoJo pose, that was about 100,000 years ago. Okay, so we see cave art and stuff of like our ancestors, chasing the mammoths and the mastodons across the plains and like, throwing spears at them and everything like that. Can you imagine that shit? I want you to imagine that shit for a second, okay? It's the year like, I don't know, 40,000 BC. We're in the depths of the Stone Age, we're years from like, we haven't even figured out agriculture yet, really. I don't think agriculture really started popping up until around 8 to 10,000 years ago to really figure out how to plant shit. So we're hunter-gatherers at this point, right? We're a bunch of cavemen, okay? And cave women. And we have, like, animal furs and the most advanced technology. Like, the closest thing to a nuclear weapon at this point is a stick with a rock tied to the end of it. Like, that's it. Like, a big boulder is the equivalent of a nuclear bomb. Like, let's get the mammoth under this giant rock and then just throw the rock on it, ugh, and then we kill giant mammoth and then we eat, But I want you to imagine, like, there's a hunting party that goes out and they come back with a straight up fucking mammoth. Like, we killed mammoth! It's like, yes! We eat for years, But there's no refrigeration or anything. But I have read that because there was no refrigeration and stuff, the microbes and bacteria in our ancestors' stomachs were actually way, way more powerful back then. Basically, we evolved to the point where we could eat raw meats. And we might still get sick, but the body could handle it way better than we are now, because now we're so used to eating cooked meat and stuff. I would not recommend just taking a bite out of raw meat. I've done this before. I've told this story, but just tell you really quick. When I was in high school, my mom was marinating pork in the fridge. She was going to make like ribs or something like that. So she took a bowl. She took a raw slab of pork, right? Threw it in the bowl, and she threw a bunch of seasonings and like, Worcester sauce and everything in there as like a marinade, and then she set it in the fridge. And then I got home from school and she wasn't there, and I opened the fridge and I wasn't paying attention. So I remembered her saying something about like, oh yeah, she's making ribs tonight, and I saw them in there and I'm like, oh, that must be them. So I literally just cut a slab of this raw pork, slapped it on a freaking plate, microwaved it for not long, like 30 seconds, and then ate it. Ate straight up raw pork. And the thing is, because of all the seasonings and the sauces and stuff for the marinade, it actually tasted okay. I remember thinking, man, this is a little chewy, but tastes good. And then my mom calls me later that night, and she's like, hey, I'll be home soon, and I'll finish dinner. And I'm like, yeah, the ribs were great. And she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, but please tell me you did not eat that pork. And I'm like, yeah, I did. She's like, Matthew, that's raw pork. And I'm like, oh God, and so I was actually terrified that night. I was terrified I was going to get some kind of weird like disease, maybe not salmonella because that's chicken, but like some kind of, ate like a slab of raw meat. But I didn't get sick. I felt fine. Okay, so I learned later, there's like, as long as the meat is processed properly, and it's like, as long as you're not buying it out of like somebody's trunk of their like Chevy, if you're buying it in a store and it's properly prepared and it's like sealed correctly and packaged correctly, you probably won't get sick, but still, not advised just to eat straight up raw pork, okay? But that's that story. But we evolved like that, so we would be able to hunt down mammoths and like wild animals and, not cook them that much or just eat them there, and we wouldn't get sick because the microbes were capable of breaking them down more. That was not so much a mammoth fact as a Tekking fact. But no, I have another one, okay? This is the whole reason I wanted to talk about this, okay? So, this is something that maybe a few people know about because this kind of made the rounds on social media a few years ago. Did you know that mammoths, woolly mammoths, lived on this planet up until about 4,000 years ago? That was when the last population of mammoths purportedly died out. 4,000 years ago. So that's not that long ago. And usually the example that I hear is that was when the Egyptians were still building their pyramids, was 4,000 years ago. And the place where they were found, or their remains were found, you know, archaeological data, like you can like carbon date stuff and figure out how long ago it was Wrangel Island, which is located north of Russia. Here's a map. So this you know, subarctic like tundra of an island, not much there really, but that was the last bastion of woolly mammoths. Woolly mammoths roamed this island, and they were probably a lot smaller than the woolly mammoths like you're thinking that lived like a million years ago or whatever, but still they lived on this island and then they died off about 4,000 years ago. And while that is kind of accurate when they say that the pyramids were still being built by the Egyptians when woolly mammoths still lived, that's not actually 100% accurate, because if you just take from where we are right now in 2022 and you just subtract 4,000 years, and obviously there's not going to be exact, like the woolly mammoths did not die off like exactly 4,000 years ago to the year exactly, but if you take 2022 subtracting by 4,000, I think you get like 1,978 BC or something like that. And that was actually during the 12th dynasty of Egypt. That was during the Middle Kingdom. That was like the apex of the Middle Kingdom. So all of the pyramids that you're thinking of, like the Red Pyramid and the Great Pyramid of Giza, Khufu's Pyramid, and then the Sphinx, which is Khafra. If you're wondering what face is on the Sphinx, it's Khafra's face. The Medium Pyramid, the Bent Pyramid, all those famous pyramids that still stand to this day, in Egypt that you go to and like you tour and everything like that. Those pyramids were already finished. They got built in like 26 to 2500 BC. That was during the 4th dynasty, okay? So mammoths were still walking on this planet like 500 years after the Great Pyramid of Giza was built. That is remarkable, okay? During the 12th dynasty, during the Middle Kingdom, pyramids were still built, but they were not as grandiose as the pyramids from the 4th dynasty in the Old Kingdom. To give you some examples, here's the kind of pyramids that have lasted today that were built during this time period. Like this is the Black Pyramid right here, which isn't even resembling a pyramid at this point because the sides of it have completely collapsed. It was basically like during the Middle Kingdom, they were trying to get back to the greatness of the Old Kingdom, building these great temples, but they never managed to really get back to that level. Yeah. So this has been Mammoth Facts, Tekking Facts, and Egyptian Facts, all rolled into one. Thanks for watching. Tekking signing out. Later, everybody. Now, where's Zorro at? Oh, he's over there the whole time. Thanks, everybody.